Mikel Arteta and Arsenal. We all know they haven't always been like this. So if we just take a quick look at where Arsenal were finishing before Mikel Arteta comes in, I wanted to go back roughly about 3 to 5 seasons before he comes in. So it's still Arsene Wenger in charge in 14-15, which would take us back 5 years before Arteta comes in. They finish third. Wenger then comes second with them again. They then come fifth under Wenger and sixth under Wenger. He then moves away. In comes Unai Emery. We all know how that goes. They finish fifth. So they're hovering around there. They're starting to dip now out with that top four and start to come kind of fourth, fifth, and sixth. Arteta then comes in and takes them over in 19-20. And again, how soft Arsenal were under Wenger towards the end, under Emery. They were the easiest team to play against in the league and a complete laughingstock, to be honest. You felt at the end of the Wenger era, they'd really gone for that technical style of player, which was great. But in the Premier League, in England, they just didn't have the physicality to be able to handle the rest of the league, and they were really starting to slip down, and fans were starting to get frustrated with who was an absolute legend of not just Arsenal, but of the Premier League in Arsene Wenger. If you move into Unai Emery, it was that style. He came over, obviously the broken English, played a little bit of part in it, and it was just a similar thing, and it felt as if he just didn't have the players to do what he was trying to do, and they were just continuously being picked off, playing out the back especially. You then start to have the fans turn on him a little bit. It's a little bit toxic towards the end of the Wenger era. That's carried into the Unai Emery area, and you have the little situations like Mesut Ozil and these big contracts and everything like that. So Arteta walks into Arsenal as the manager, coming from being the assistant to Pep. On Boxing Day in December 2019, when he took over, Arsenal were currently sitting in 10th in the league, and he managed to get them to finish 8th in that first season. So if we look at the first squad that he inherits, and we're going to get to and how he rebuilds it and all the players that he brings in across this video, if we just take a look at that, he's got Bernd Leno in goals, he's got Maitland-Niles at right back, Socrates and Luiz as the centre halves, Bukayo Saka kind of plays as like a left wing back, Lucas Torreira, Granit Xhaka, Reece Nelson, Mesut Ozil, Aubameyang and Lacazette. That's the first team that he comes in and takes over, and it's going to be crazy to see how he transforms it from that to what we've got now. From here, Arteta really needed to do a culture reset, right? And I know that's a buzzword and everything like that these days, but it really did. The culture at Arsenal was not good. It's what we've seen a lot of Manchester United in the past. Big name players on big wages, looking like they're just kind of strutting around, probably enjoying living in London and not really worrying too much about the football. What you really have to do at any job, any business, is come in and you have to set some non-negotiables. Non-negotiables are standards, the intensity, professionalism, the training habits, and discipline. Aubameyang's going to play a part in this story as we move on. Not only that, as a manager, we all know very, very quickly you've got to trim the fat and get out exactly who you don't want. Anyone that you feel is going to be of a negative impact to you trying to rebuild this team, rebuild the squad, rebuild this culture, you need to get out, because if you don't get them out, you're going to end up losing your job. We know he gets that FA Cup win, which has so far been his only trophy in the first season, which was a huge moment for him to have belief in himself. Also the board, also the fans, and probably the players in the dressing room that did want to get behind him, that he had the authority and he had the right direction to pull them in. And for those that were against him and maybe weren't going to live up to his standards and all those non-negotiables we just talked about, it was an opportunity for him to be able to say, look where I can take this club. I'm right. We need to get rid of these guys. So if we take a look at his recruitment quickly and we just go over it, you can see early doors in the January that he comes in, he brings in Pablo Mari and Cedric Suarez, right? So he's gone for 2 defenders, looking to try and improve that and solidify the defense. I think a big thing to talk about on all of this and what people have to understand is when you've dipped like that, even though it's Arsenal and it's London and everything, you are at a level where you can't go out and buy these elite level players that other clubs that are at the top of that time are probably doing. Your Chelseas, your Man Cities, everyone like that, your Liverpools. You can't go and compete with those players because they're not going to want to come to you because of where you're at. So you've got to start to identify players in the market and try and work with what you've got with the level that you're currently at. From there, if we move on into the summer, he brings in Gabriel. As we know, absolutely incredible bit of business. That's a huge hit on Mikel Arteta's part. He does bring in Willian as well, who, okay, I would probably say is a miss, but wasn't like absolutely shocking for them. Willian's a good football player, but Gabriel, a huge signing in there for them. He brings in Thomas Partey. I know he has his issues towards the end of the time and what he's going through right now and everything, but you do have to say Thomas Partey, for the time that he was there at Arsenal, I would probably say was a hit and was a good sign-in, a little holding defensive midfield player to have in there with a bit of size about him as well. If we move into the January of that next season, 2021, it's when they start to get Martin Odegaard into the squad. Martin Odegaard has been huge for them. He's the club captain. He's had everything that makes them tick over. He's that technical player that can unlock defensive and just really has been an absolutely wonderful signing from Arsenal. He goes to Real Madrid as a young lad, which should mean he has a lot about him. It's hard to make it there. But what a signing that's been for Arsenal. He's been a huge hit for them and a huge, huge component of what's got them to where they are at now. In the summer of 2021, we get the likes of Ben White, Tomiyasu, Aaron Ramsdale. This is when the guys that are around now and they're doing really well are really starting to come in. This is really the moment for me for Arsenal where they're starting to build the squad that we see now and get the right recruitment in, and Arteta with his coaching really improving these players. At this point, he's had 2 8th place finishes. We talked about the FA Cup win. They've come 5th, and at the time I'm talking about these players coming in this window, he's about to come and he's about to finish 2nd in the league. 21-22 season's a real big one as well, because that's where he's having a lot of the problems with Aubameyang, and this is a real turning moment and a sliding doors moment for him, because are the club going to back the manager, who currently right now has just got them to 8th and 5th with an FA Cup, but they're looking forward to it. They're maybe seeing something that they do like. Or do they back a star player here who's on a lot of wages, a big contract, it's going to be hard to shift? Who do they back? Arteta or Aubameyang? We know they back Arteta, and we've seen that that's been proven correct so far. In terms of ins, this is what I like to call the Man City evolution taking part in here. This is where he comes and he gets those winners. He brings in Jesus and he brings in Zinchenko in the summer of 2022 to add a mentality of knowing what it takes to win a league title. Alongside both of those players being really good, and to be quite honest with you, Gabriel Jesus has been injured a lot, which has been frustrating for them. But I would personally say that one has probably been a hit as a signing. I think he's done decent when they bought him. His injuries have just not helped. Zinchenko, probably up for debate, maybe closer to a miss rather than a hit. But you can see Arteta, what he's trying to do. He's starting now to try and bring in mentalities of winners, and this is in the summer of 2022. January 2023, we see the signings of Trossard, Jorginho, and Kiwior. Again, Trossard's been a hit. I'd argue Jorginho was a hit from there. And Kiwior, when he was there, had some decent games. He had some poor moments. Probably put him down as a miss, but again, it's a solid 3 signings in there in that January transfer window 2023 to just keep them moving along and getting the right momentum. At the end of that season, they go from finishing 5th all the way to 2nd. So a huge improvement, and what they've started to back him in terms of getting guys out like Aubameyang and bringing his players in is starting to work for Arsenal. They finish on 84 points, which is a really good points tally in the Premier League. We know that. Those high 90s are tough to come by. They're of an era that we might not see again. So 84 points for Arteta and Arsenal in that season, coming all the way from finishing 5th on 69 is a massive jump up. We know from here for the next 2 seasons they do end up coming 2nd again, right? We do know that. I mean, we know this is where the labels become of them not being able to get over the line. But let's just continue to look at how he builds the squad from that 2nd place finish to keep them at the level that they are at. So in the summer of 2023 is the real transformation window for them. This is the summer where they get Timber, Declan Rice, and David Raya. David Raya is your keeper right in there. Declan Rice in there as your spine. At the time, you've got Havertz and Jesus up top. They've started to build that spine, and we know Declan Rice is a fantastic player, and for that 100 million price tag, it's proved to be worth every single penny. He's the real heart of that team, and he's the one player you would think if Arsenal lost due to injury, certainly this season, that it could really, really hurt them. Summer 2024, this is where we had the likes of Calafiore and Moreno. There was a lot of talk, and he was kind of being laughed at for continuing to buy defenders. Like, what is he doing here? This is where he's really heading towards that route of backing that defensive stability. After a little time period of just that kind of technical phase, we start to bring in Rice and stuff. We start to add a little bit more power and presence to it, right? We're starting to swing that pendulum all the way across to this very defensive-minded side that we've seen last season and we're seeing still bits of this season. This summer, again, has just been an adding of quality and adding to the squad depth here. We've got the likes of Zubimendi come in, Madueke comes in. He buys the striker that everyone's been talking about that they need, and Gyökeres. We'll see if that's going to work out. He's obviously been injured a little bit right now. He's got some goals. He's added a good little bit to them. Will he get them 15 to 20 goals a season? But do this Arsenal team need that? Is that really what they need from what we're seeing, what they're doing now? They've got goals all over the pitch. Do they necessarily need a 15 to 20 goal season, a striker? But this is now, this summer again, he's added to it. He's got a big guy up top now. He's got a big boy to sit in there with Rice in the midfield and Raya as that spine. And I think now what we're seeing after this summer of purchases, we're seeing that blend between the physicality that he's brought in the last couple of seasons, but also that kind of Arsenal way with your likes of your Odegaards and your Saka and your Trossards, bit smaller, technical players, and just getting that perfect balance of the mix between being physical, being a problem at set pieces. Obviously, Eze's a big signing as well there that I didn't mention. He's been huge for them. And it's just adding all these pieces together and getting the perfect balance in a really, really big squad. It's an impressive rebuild for him, to be quite honest with you. I think for me, there's a few key players in there. I think Bukayo Saka's your youth, your Arsenal coming through, the kind of symbol of what this next generation, what this next move's going to be off that right-hand side. I'd like to see some more goals and assists from Saka, personally, but look, he's a quality player and he adds to that Arsenal team and it all works for them in there. Saliba and Gabriel. Saliba's there before he comes in. He buys Gabriel. Have pretty much been the best centre-half pair, and you could argue in the league for probably the last kind of 3 to 4 years that he's been in charge there. That real solid spine that he's got down the middle that we talked about. Raya, Saliba, Gabriel, Rice, Gyökeres, Havertz, whoever you want up there. There's so many of those players in there, and he's built that real solid spine with his 2 centre-halves. It's a massively important position in football. We all know that. I think Odegaard is that kind of technical, cultural leader that can come in, he can get on the ball, he can make things happen, he's not afraid to get the ball when the team in trouble. I think he's been a real key for them. And I think Declan Rice, for me, just in the middle of the park, that centre-mid position, for me, it's probably the most important position in football. When I used to coach, used to have the kids, if you had that centre midfielder in there, they could just get around the pitch, dictate everything like Declan Rice does. You've got a huge chance of winning, and that mentality as well, coming from Rice, really wanting to make that step up, coming from West Ham to be at the top level, it's been huge for them. So I think ultimately where Arsenal are now, and the improvement from what we said at the start, is they've got their identity restored. We know who they are. They're a solid physical team that can also get the ball down and play. You know exactly what you're going to get when you watch an Arsenal game now. The squad age, it's young, it's fresh, it's got a great balance and mix from a couple of experienced pros to guys in that kind of 26, 27, 28 period, with still some younger guys there. It's got a really, really good mix between all of those ages. It's a perfect squad mix. They've been title challengers really 2 to 3 years running. Yes, they need to get over the line, but they're looking like they're going to be there again. They're going to be the most consistent team in the league this season as well. They've got one of the best defenses in Europe, one of the deepest squads in the Premier League and potentially Europe. But most importantly, for me, the fans are all connected again and the culture is set right there. There's none of this toxicity that when he first came in with these guys that are on big wages, they're bigger than the club, they don't really care. He's completely removed that, and he's got a squad of guys that are in there willing to work and do all those non-negotiables that we talked about earlier on in the video. So is there anything still missing from this Arsenal team that they could add to? Again, people are probably going to point the finger at Gyökeres. Personally, I don't know if they need that 15 to 20 goal striker if everyone keeps chipping in there. That might be the one area that you would say you look to improve on. I think the defence and the keeper is absolutely sorted. I think the midfield sorted. Saka off the right. They've got a balance of Trossard, Martinelli and Madueke. You can swap in for Saka as well. And then you've got Gyökeres, Havertz and even Jesus when they come back in. So they're fully stacked everywhere for me. So really, the only thing they're missing is it just that big trophy, that Premier League title or that Champions League trophy. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Arteta's rebuild, what you think was the most important part, any little bits I've missed out, maybe other guys that he got rid of, other guys that he brought in that I've maybe not mentioned that changed the kind of culture, the mentality, the level of the squad. And look, let me know if you guys think he's going to get over the line. And if he doesn't this season, after everything we talked about, is he still going to be the Arsenal manager? As always, please like and subscribe to the channel. Would be much appreciated. Trying to get myself to 500 subscribers so we can get a YouTube membership and everything going. So click that like button down below. Click subscribe. Leave your comments. Let's get a bit of interaction going on. Get a bit of a chat going on together. And as always, until the next one, have a good one. Peace.